Mud is a movie. My other two might be considered films, but Mud's a movie, which I don't think makes it any less important or any less sincere.
What's different?
You know, I don't know. I think it's in an attitude. I think it's in the approach. In Shotgun Stories and Take Shelter, I was so strict with myself. With Mud, you know, which I wrote in the same summer as Take Shelter, I just kind of was like, I was tired of being so cool and tired of just being so, you know, just kind of shackled by realism and austerity that I was like, you know what, I can still apply a lot of that to this film because, I mean, it's not, I don't think it's a silly film, but I'm just gonna kind of take the pressure off a little bit, and I want to have fun. I want to write characters that speak a lot. I wanted Mud to be verbose and constantly moving, and I wanted this to kind of feel like kids, you know, especially kids at this particular age. I found this book in the Little Rock Public Library. I think it was probably in the late 90s, like 99, 2000. It's called The Last River, and it's, I've never talked to the writer or photographer. Probably should send them a little thank you note. It's a photographic essay about people who make a living off of the lower Arkansas, the lower White rivers, just up from the Mississippi in Arkansas. And I don't know, I was really impressed with it. Like, there's this, I mean, there's a photograph of a houseboat. Some of them look like that. Some of them kind of look more like double white trailers that they've put on flotilla, which is kind of more of what we use in the movie, although we use a combination of both. But there was really this one part, well, they're commercial fishermen, you know, like this guy here. Mm-hmm. And then, really though, there was this guy. Hold on.
Oh wow, that's the pearl diver guy?
Yeah, that's Galen.
And his name is really Galen?
Yeah, it's in the caption. And that's his, I don't know if you can see this, but this is his diving helmet made out of a hot water heater. With a garden hose, and then they have just like barbell weights on the side. And he has a mermaid tattoo in the middle of his chest and a mustache. I wanted Mike Shannon to have a mustache, and they put a fake one on him because he couldn't have a mustache because of Superman, because he was shooting Superman, and so they put a fake one on him, and it just looked, it didn't look right, so we lost the mustache.
And this Galen, does he have half of a wetsuit on? Because that was one thing I really liked about that character was that Michael Shannon was wearing half of a wetsuit.
And had come out from like doing questionable things with a lady.
Yeah.
They're actually,
a very funny part.
It was too gross, but if you see in this photograph, and we noticed when we did research, I didn't realize it from these photographs, those are yellow kitchen gloves. And there's actually a scene where Neckbone's sitting in the boat with him, and he's wearing yellow kitchen gloves. And I thought for a second it'd be really funny if Mike came out with one yellow kitchen glove. Come on, and I was like, that's kind of gross.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's better that just it's left open to interpretation.
You have to see this photograph, and I almost wrote an entire separate screenplay about this. So this is his daughter, and she's watching Sesame Street on a television on a milk crate hooked up to a car battery, because they would go to these camps, like up and down the river. So they were like traveling gypsies. And you can see actually here, his wife is, so they don't keep the meat or anything, they're just using the shells, because they sell them to the Japanese to grow cultured pearls in them. But so sometimes, you know, that's his wife. She's going through all the like nasty insides just to find little river pearls, you know, which is where that idea came from, and then the idea for naming that character May Pearl.
What about Neckbone? Where did the name
Neckbone, a friend of mine had gone into a bar, I think in the morning, in Little Rock, and there was a table of black gentlemen playing dominoes in the back, and as soon as he walked in, like a guy threw down a domino, slapped it down, and yelled, "It's on," like a pot of neck bones. And I was like, wow, that's a great line.
I read that you partially borrowed the name Mud from the Townes Van Zandt song.
Kind of.
Mr. Gold and Mr. Mud.
Yeah, you know, I was here in Austin. When I first moved to Austin, I was really lucky to get a job working on a documentary about Townes Van Zandt called Be Here to Love Me. And so I was listening to a lot of Townes, and Mr. Mud and Mr. Gold is an awesome song. And so that was definitely in my head a lot. Plus, I mean, the whole song is about basically about luck and like a game of cards and everything else. The legend is that you can actually lay out a hand of poker based on it. I don't know if that's true.
Okay.
It's about a hand of poker that he played, and he turned it into a song. It's an incredible song. But also, at the same time, I had this book, and I was thinking about the river, and Mississippi mud is a very real substance, and we were covered in it. And also thinking about adolescence, which is kind of a murky, muddy kind of time in our lives. Things are unclear, and it's like HUD.
That was my next question. I was going to ask you about the HUD connection, because there is obviously HUD and mud, right? But also there's a character who is a kind of a male mentor or a role model who's kind of questionable in his integrity. And
yeah, that's one of my favorite films. In fact, when they were doing the poster, typically I just knew it was coming. Like that kind of distressed typewriter font that looks like it's kind of muddy, and it says mud. Anything that's Southern, I think, is in that font. I ended up showing him the poster of HUD and was like, look how clean this font is. And they actually used the HUD font for the mud font, because I just wanted kind of a 1960s clean font. I love films like HUD. I love films like Cool Hand Luke. Like, I love films from the 60s and 70s that I consider, from my point of view, to be big classic American films. And I wanted this film to be a big classic American film. I mean, it's an homage to big classic American cinema. It's why it has a music montage in it and a shotgun shootout in it. And these were conscious choices of mine to say, like, these things happen in movies that I really like.
Both of those movies kind of portray a dying way of life, of earning a living. So you're either life on the river or cattle ranching.
It's not the main thrust of the film, but the whole film's kind of draped in it. And if there is kind of an undercurrent of sadness to the whole thing, not to use the word undercurrent, but is that, that it's the father's character, which is representative of these houseboats and this way of life. It's just, it's just not long for this world. And it's something that, like in HUD, you have to accept it. This film is about adolescence, this film is about transition. So it felt appropriate that one way of life was dying in this film and a new way of life was beginning, for better or worse. I think another big part of that is I always give my characters jobs. Like in romantic comedies and stuff you watch, and everybody always works at an ad agency and drives a really nice car and lives in a really nice apartment, and I don't really know what the hell they do all day. And I think we're all so defined by our jobs, whether we want to admit it or not. I mean, we spend so much time and so much energy, is put into our jobs and making a living. We're defined by that. We can't help but be defined by it. So that's one of the first things I do is I give each character a job, and that seems to inform so much. Cars they drive, where they live, how they talk, who their friends are, all these things. So that might be my trick. I don't know. Job. Give them a job. Give them a job, and then you got 90% of your character. And then give them, I don't know. And then give them a family, and you're done. I like to kind of pick a genre, and then just totally work against it. At every turn, dismantle them. Like Shotgun Stories is a revenge western, and right when that guy's should be going to like buy a gun and kick some ass, like I picked the worst character to do that. He doesn't even know how to fire it or load it or put it together. It's all by design, because there's that moment in revenge movies where you're like, it's Rambo tying the bandana and like loading things, and I just wanted to work against that. And psychological thriller for Take Shelter is very, very similar. I mean, Mud is a getaway film, but I'll also say this in terms of my own bizarre narrative structure, and it happens in Shotgun Stories. I feel like the first 2/3 of your movie are all there to just service the last third. All those things in Shotgun Stories, the tent, the radio coming on in the van, all these things were set up, and when they first happened, they're kind of funny, humorous maybe, but then after that character dies, in the whole second half, you revisit all those things, and they're not funny anymore. What you're doing in that back half is you're finally taking advantage of all this stuff that you've set up. It's like All right, we spent this whole hour and a half setting up so that you know how important everything is to this guy and where this guy's at, and then you just start ticking off these scenes. And the scenes themselves, if taken out, may or may not have impact, but when put at the back end of all of this lead up, they're extremely powerful. With Mud, I just added a shotgun shootout at the end. I just tacked it on just because I wanted to do one.
And it was a riverboat shootout, not just any shootout on the water.
I want to have a shootout on a riverboat. Yeah, like that's, I don't know. I wanted to see it.
The smile just melted off his face when Mud turned over that diamond ace. Now here's what this story's told. You feel like mud, you'll end up gold. Feel like lost, you'll end up found. So amigo, lay them razors down.